The story of the massacre on the island of Eigg has become legend. It's thought to have occurred around March 1577, and it was a day that was forever etched on the minds of both the MacDonalds of Clanranald and the MacLeods of Skye. One day, 3 young men of the MacLeod clan, sailing from Mull to Dunvegan, landed on the island of Eigg, where they saw some young women working in a field. They shouted insults at them, and the women's screams soon brought the men of the island to their assistance. They managed to seize the MacLeods and tied them up, binding their hands and feet, then set them adrift in their own boat. As luck would have it, they were carried to Dunvegan Loch, where they were seen and rescued by Ian Dhu MacLeod of Minginish, who was returning from Orkney. Ian Dhu was known for his cruel disposition and had murdered his chief, Donald MacLeod, the 10th of Harris and Dunvegan, as well as some of his near relatives. At the time, Norman, the legal heir, was elsewhere, and he placed himself at the head of the clan, ensconcing himself at Dunvegan Castle. On hearing this story, he vowed revenge on the people of Eigg. The islanders knew there would be retribution for what they'd done, so kept a lookout, and sure enough, that day in March 1577, Ian Dhu's galley was spotted. The alarm was given, so the 395 inhabitants of the island, men, women and children, under the leadership of Angus, 4th son of John Moidertuch of Clanranald, gathered together and took refuge in a large cave on the sea shore. It's believed they hid for up to 3 weeks in the cave while searches took place. The entrance to the cave was just a few yards from the high tide mark, with a small opening, surrounded by grasses and moss. The narrow passage was 12 feet long, then it opened up into a sizable cavern. The MacLeods landed and began searching for the MacDonalds, but not a soul could they find. The island appeared to be deserted, so believing their intended victims had set sail for the mainland, they began returning to their ship. Unfortunately, one of the MacDonalds was keen to find out the movements of the enemy, so emerged from his hiding place to have a look. His solitary figure against the skyline attracted the attention of the MacLeods, who immediately gave chase. They soon lost sight of him, but his footsteps were clearly visible in the snow-covered ground. The tracks were followed, and it led them to the cave where the MacDonalds were hiding. Ian Dhu demanded that the men who'd tied up his clansmen be handed over to him, and in return he would leave the rest of the islanders alone. The MacDonalds, who were nearly all related to one another, refused to give them up, knowing it would be certain death for the men. Ian Dhu was furious and swore his wrath on every man, woman and child on the island. But the MacDonalds didn't despair. To enter the cave, only one man at a time could enter the low and narrow passage, and then only on hands and knees. But Ian Dhu got his clansmen to gather sticks in order to set a fire, and on their return closed up the entrance to the cave. Before carrying out the deed, he realised a lady of high rank, betrothed to their leader, Angus Moidertuch of Clanranald, who then owned the island, was also in the cave. Fearing retribution should she die, he called to her to come out. She refused unless she could bring young Clanranald with her. Ian Dhu, still concerned about retribution, then said she could come out with as many clansmen as she had fingers, except for Angus. The poor woman found herself in a terrible dilemma. Instinct would kick in, and she thought of saving her own life, but then she thought about the loss of her soon-to-be husband, who would have to remain. Her clansmen gathered round her, hope on their faces, swaying her resolution, but not a word was said. She could save no more than 10. She had to make a choice. She couldn't leave the man she loved, and despite his urgent entreaties to save herself, she refused Ian Dhu's offer and threw herself into her lover's arms. Annoyed by her obstinacy, Ian Dhu gave the order for the straw, brushwood and heather to be lit at the entrance to the cave. The smoke soon filled it and suffocated all those trapped within it. This was seen as one of the worst atrocities ever recorded in the Highlands and Islands. A year later, retribution for the massacre followed and was keenly felt on Skye. On a calm and peaceful morning, on the first Sunday in May 1578, the inhabitants of Vaternish went to church at Trumpan for the early service. While inside the church, listening to the minister, suddenly outside a cry went up, and without warning the church was surrounded by MacDonalds. It took a few moments to sink in what was happening, but the men in the congregation ran towards the door, but it was robustly held shut by the MacDonalds, while others clambered onto the thatched roof and set it alight. Within a short time, the men, women, and children were suffocating in the thick smoke, and all perished. No one escaped from the burning building, except for one woman who managed to get out, but as she fled, a MacDonald struck her down with his claymore, cutting off one of her breasts. She was left for dead, but managed to crawl 2 miles before she finally succumbed to her injuries. The smoke from the church alerted the locals, and soon MacLeods gathered and pursued the MacDonalds, who had rushed back towards their ships, but they'd been left high and dry due to the receding tide. They then turned back to face the MacLeods, but managed to use a crudely built wall that protected crops for shelter. But the MacLeods saw what they were doing, so circumvented it. Arranging themselves in a line, they made a sudden rush against the opposite side of the wall, with such force it toppled over, killing the MacDonalds, and those who didn't die that way met the end of a sword. Their bodies were said to have been buried beneath the debris, and the battle became known as the Battle of the Spoiling Dyke. The cave on Eigg was visited in 1846 by Hugh Miller, the geologist and writer, who wrote that he found heaps of human bones grouped together, of a brownish earthy hue, here and there tinged with green. The skulls, with the exception of a few broken fragments, have disappeared, for travellers in the Hebrides have of late years been numerous and curious, and many a museum, that at Abbotsford among the rest, exhibits, in a grinning skull, its memorial of the Massacre of Eigg. When Sir Walter Scott visited the cave, he did indeed carry away with him a skull of one of the victims. Enough of the bones remained at this time to show families had died in groups, and beneath the remains were fragments of the straw beds they had once slept on. In 1885, it was visited once more. It was described as the floor being covered with stones and fragments of rock of all shapes and sizes. The air was humid and earthy, and the darkness so thick the light of the candles served only to make it more perceptible. The only sound to be heard was the intermittent drip of water, which here and there fell from the roof. A feeling of awe crept over me as I stood in the middle of the great cave, and thought of the terrible atrocity which had been committed within it. The very ground beneath my feet was partially formed of the ashes of the dead. Even yet, the bones of the unfortunate victims are to be found in the cave, decayed and blackened with age. In 2016, bones were still being found in the cave, and archaeologists at Historic Environment Scotland have dated them to around the time of the massacre. If you visit the island, please leave any bones you see in the cave, as that's where they belong, the final resting place of the victims. If you enjoyed this episode of Scotland's History, please like, comment and subscribe. Until next time, thank you for watching.